Hi everyone, Ashley here with the Maryland State Library for the Blind and Print Disabled, and I am thrilled to be with you today. I am actually coming from a different location. I normally host a lot of my events either at the Library for the Blind or Print Disabled or virtually in my basement with my 20-month-old toddler, which you all have seen. But today, I am actually visiting Carroll County Public Library's Exploration Commons. And it is an amazing facility. It is literally a makerspace haven. And today, I am joined by chef extraordinaire, Miss Nancy, in their teaching kitchen. Miss Nancy.
Hi, Ashley. I'm going to duck around this way so I can get on camera. I didn't realize we were recording. It's a pleasure to have you here today. So what are we making?
We are making an English scone. And
yummy.
yeah, it's going to be great.
Where'd you find the recipe?
So I am a huge royal fan, which means I love to kind of figure out what, Kate Middleton's wearing next. But in 2020, the palace released a recipe that was the official recipe of the Queen of England.
So this recipe is straight from the Queen?
Well,
or her kitchen.
At least her kitchen. And I found it, and it was adapted for home cooking. So that's what we're going to do today is the home version of this recipe.
Oh, what a treat to have this and you can come share it with us.
Yeah, I know.
Are you ready to get baking?
I am.
Let's bake.
All right.
I think someone else said that.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm wearing an apron. I would highly recommend everyone wear an apron. Mine says Baker's Gonna Bake. And Miss Nancy is wearing her chef coat. Her chef coat is blue so that she can be easily seen on the screen. So let's go over all the ingredients that we need and the tools that we need. I'm going to describe everything and hold it up for viewing. So first and foremost, you're going to need flour. We have flour here in a container. This is all-purpose flour, and it is in a solid plastic container. If I tilt it just a little bit, you can see that the flour has already been fluffed by Miss Nancy. She highly recommends you do this. Take a fork and just fluff it so that it's not sitting there and compacted. Next up, we need sugar. Again, sugar is in a plastic container. If you are measuring from the bags, not a problem. We're going to talk about leveling and all that good stuff, but just so you know, all of our materials are in containers today. Up next, we have a pinch of salt. Now, obviously, this container here is about 32 ounces.
It is.
32 ounces? Yeah. And it contains a lot of salt. We don't need all this salt. We only need a pinch. For a pinch, you can actually use your fingers and pinch, or you can use a measuring spoon. For a you have two options for your measuring spoon. You can use a measuring spoon that is 1/8 of a teaspoon, or you can use half of a 1/4 teaspoon. And Miss Nancy actually has a nifty little measuring spoon that says pinch on it, which is really cool. Up next, we have baking powder. I was going through, I'm looking at the butter and I'm about to call it baking butter.
Baking butter.
Baking butter.
Well, we do have baking powder. Let's do baking powder first.
So baking powder typically comes in a cylinder with a lip on it so that you can accurately level and measure from your spoon. You can, again, use a knife. So I'm going to hand that back to you.
Thank you.
Yep. Up next, we have our butter. Now, Miss Nancy, tell me again about this butter.
So we are using a high-fat European-style butter, and I should run this side. And so you can see it has a really beautiful yellow color. It also melts very nicely if you touch it. Ashley, this is, how much butterfat do you think is in here?
Oh,
yes.
Well, I know Europeans like their butter fat, so I'm going to say 70%.
So actually, this is 85% butter fat.
Oh
so
my
it's going to
God.
give us rich flavor, beautiful color, and really make our scones nice and tender. So this is our butter. Super yummy.
Quick question. Does butter fat affect the taste?
Butter fat will totally affect the taste. If it's a cultured butter, you'll have that fermented flavor to it. If it's a store-bought butter, it may be salted or unsalted, so you have to read that on the recipe as well. We like to use unsalted and adjust the salt depending on our recipe or any dietary needs that someone may have. As well as this is grass-fed cows, and that's what makes the European butter so special. Is it's right from the Highlands of Ireland.
Oh, okay. Now this is something I can get at Costco though. So
yeah, it's actually available in all the stores in the States. Yep.
Oh, sweet. So up next we have 3 eggs. We've put our eggs in a little bowl so that you can see them, but you need 3 of them. As you are baking, they will come up to room temperature, and that is okay. You don't need to warm them up or keep them in the fridge. Having them out on the counter is perfectly fine. We have pre-measured our buttermilk. Now, we are using a plastic 1-cup container of buttermilk measured to 3/4 of a cup. If you are using an adaptive measuring cup, one that talks to you, you want it to beep at the 3/4 cup mark. The other method that you can use is to measure literally 1/4 cup at a time and until you get to 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to put that back. And finally, we have our raisins. Now, we are using golden raisins, mostly because they're my favorite. But we have soaked them for about 30 minutes. That will help the scones to be a little bit more moist, and it'll keep the raisins from drying out. We put them in a small bowl, and that works really well. You do want to drain the raisins before using them. I don't always do that, and I should. So that's the ingredients. And after you've baked your scones, you can add things like clotted cream. You can add jams and
more of that good butter.
More of the good butter. Yeah, we'll save that tablespoon.
So Ashley, what about the tools we need now that we have our ingredients?
All right. So here's the cool thing. All the tools should be available in your kitchen already. We are going to start off with our measuring cups. We are using standard measuring ingredients. We are using a 1/3 cup. It is metal. And again, when we are measuring, we want to level the cup. But we have a 1/3 measuring cup, a 1/2 measuring cup, a full cup. We have our measuring spoon for pinch.
And again, you can use
an actual pinch.
Actual pinch with your thumb and first finger will give you a nice pinch, a pretty hefty one.
Yeah.
Or you can use 1/2 of a teaspoon measuring.
That's true. We have a 1 tablespoon measuring spoon and a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon. We have a rubber spatula. You want to make sure it's a nice sturdy one. You don't want to get one that's real flimsy. We have a pastry brush. So a pastry brush typically has rubbery ends or very fine ends that you then dip in an egg solution or something along the like to brush on your pastry. It should be very malleable.
And if you don't have one, you can use your fingertip or back of a spoon.
Oh, cool. Now I've done my fingers. I've not done the back of the spoon. We have a fork, just a regular fork, a nice tablespoon, like a soup spoon, a regular butter knife, a second spatula, a whisk that you want a nice sturdy whisk. You don't want one of the ones that collapse or fold. I've had those fold on me, and that's just not fun. We have a biscuit cutter. Now, guess what I used because I didn't have one.
I think you told me you couldn't find your biscuit cutter and you borrowed something from your daughter.
I did. The first time I made scones, I used her sippy cup. And then the second time I used her bottle.
There you go. Anything round will work.
Anything round. We have a digital timer here. Again, if you are using an assistive timer, you want to make sure that the batteries are fresh and that it is working. That's probably good advice for any digital device. And then finally, because no true baker goes by smell alone, we have now a digital thermometer probe, and it goes into the actual scone when we're ready to test it to see what temperature it has risen to. They do have these in talking format. So again, if you're using assistive technology, you can find these with a talking probe. We also have bowls. You're going to need some bowls. You're going to need a large bowl, a medium-sized bowl, and a couple of small bowls. We have a total of 3 bowls that we're working from today, plus our actual bowls that are holding ingredients. And then finally, we have a rolling pin. Now, I favor the fondant rolling pins because I like to be able to, you know, push and roll that way and feel the dough.
And actually, that's just one without the handles on it, but either one will work for this recipe.
And you know what else they're really good for? When you're doing anything with dough and you just need to.
You need a little thick aggression.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So that is a general overview of all of the tools. Now, these tools are pretty common. You should be able to. Dollar Tree is a really great place.
They have a lot of great baking things.
Yeah. So I have my notes here. We're just going to go off our notes and kind of get ready to go. Are you ready?
All right, Ashley, I'm here to beat your hands.
All right.
So I will hand you things, and is everybody ready out there? I hope so. And do send us pictures.
Yes.
She'll give you the information at the end of the video on where to send your beautiful scones that you're sharing with your friends and family. So
yes.
Let me get back over here.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take my large bowl, and we are using a metal bowl. Now, some metal bowls have a rubber bottom, and that's perfectly fine. For some people will use a glass bowl, again, perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that the bowl doesn't move on you when you're whisking around. So if you don't have a smooth, if you have a smooth counter, you just kind of want to maybe put something underneath it to kind of keep it from moving. Oh, thank you. Believe it or not, the best thing to use, what she actually handed me, is a little shelf liner that you can put under your bowl. So we're just going to do that real quick. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to measure our flour. So again, we're using all-purpose flour, and it is 3 full cups of flour. So the first thing we're going to do, again, as Miss Nancy reminded us, is we're going to fluff our flour. We're going to take a fork and we're just going to fluff it up. And we are going to scoop. Now, you can use a spoon to spoon in your flour. That will give you a little bit more of an accurate measurement. But I told Miss Nancy, much to her chagrin, that I like to scoop. So I'm going to scoop my flour, and then I'm going to take the back of my knife, and I'm going to level it. So as you can see with my cup here, there's a little bit of a gap. Again, I didn't use the spoon method, so there's a little bit of a gap. I'm going to just level my flour towards me first and then back. And you want to do it over your flour bin or your flour bag because it makes a mess. So 1, again, leveling towards me. Didn't get enough, so I got to do it again. Leveling towards myself and then away from myself, just like that, into the bowl. Level towards myself, away from myself, and again, in the bowl. Now we need our half measuring cup. And we are going to take our half measuring cup and do the same exact thing. We're going to scoop the flour. And I'm going to take my knife, and I'm going to level it towards myself and level it away. There we go. So you should have a total of 3.5 cups of flour in your bowl. Up next is the baking powder. Again, baking powder does come with a way to level your spoon. It has a little lip on it. If you are someone who prefers, you can use a knife to level. You are going to do 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons. So it is 2 tablespoons, and I'm just going to dip right on in. I'm going to level using the lip of 2 tablespoons. 1, 2. and 2 teaspoons. Now, I will admit, I actually messed this up once.
Oh, no. What
Yeah.
happened?
I forgot one of the teaspoons.
Oh,
And you know what?
they were okay.
They were okay. It happens.
Yep. And always use fresh baking powder, Ashley. This is good for about 3 months after you open it. A lot of people keep it for 2 or 3 years. So if especially it's a recipe that's only leavened by the baking powder, make sure you buy a fresh container. This was actually brand new today.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm guilty of keeping opened baking powder and soda for a long time.
And all that butter and all those eggs, you want to make sure you have good baking powder.
So in other words, fresh ingredients.
Fresh ingredients make all the difference.
Chef question.
Sure.
How often should you check your pantry?
We check our pantry here once a week, but at home you probably should check your pantry at least every 6 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't do that. I should, but I don't. Next up is going to be a pinch of salt. Now, again, you can choose to do a pinch with your thumb and forefinger, and it'll give you a nice hefty amount of salt. I'm going to actually use a measuring spoon that says pinch. You can find these on Amazon or at your local baking enthusiast store, or you can get the ones that have 1/8 of a teaspoon that actually have the measurements on there.
I just saw on Amazon, it was a set of measuring spoons all the way down to this size, but it came with a leveler, and they were magnetic, and they stacked on top of each other. So that may be perfect for our folks.
I love that idea.
I'm going to get some for here.
Oh, yeah?
Next time you
Okay.
come.
Yes.
Next recipe.
Yes. Well, next year for our virtual hike, I already decided where we're going.
Okay.
We're going to Mexico.
Oh.
You ready to cook something?
We're ready.
All right. So we're going to put a pinch of salt in with our dry ingredients. Now, once you've got the pinch of salt in there, you want to go ahead and mix your dry ingredients. You can do this 2 ways. You can use a whisk and actually mix your ingredients, or you can use a stand mixer, which we have over here to the side. If you are using a stand mixer, you want to use the paddle attachment to kind of get things moving and grooving. If you're using a whisk, do not go at it like you are, a champion beater here. You want to just kind of go at it so it's light and fluffy. I'm going to tilt the bowl so you can see, and I'm just going to take from the bottom and flip it over. And is that called folding?
So you're kind of folding, even though it's wet. That's usually wet and dry, but that's the motion you use when you fold. You make angel food. Cake?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. So I actually made gluten-free angel food cake the other day. Tastes a little different.
It's still good.
It was still good. Yeah, especially with jam.
So one of the important things, why do we dry mix when we're going to go ahead and put it in the mixer, right? So salt and flour and baking powder are all different sizes of particles. And so we want to make sure that we kind of get everything mixed because we don't want to overmix our dough.
Yeah.
We want to make sure it stays nice and tender. That's the key to scones. It's really simple ingredients. It's all about your technique. Let's see how you do.
Okay. Well, don't do what I did my first time, which was after I whisked everything together. I took the bowl and I was like, okay, and I shook it just to give it and then everything settled again. So don't do that. Now, up next, we have our wet ingredients. We're going to start off with our butter. And Miss Nancy is putting the dry ingredients to the side. Again, with the butter, you want to have 7 tablespoons of butter. Miss Nancy has a neat way of cutting the butter so that it gets incorporated really, really well. She recommends cutting half lengthwise, rotating the butter, then cutting it and turning it 90 degrees, and then cutting it half lengthwise again before you start chopping. The goal is to actually make it small. You want to make it as small as possible. For myself, that is quite a bit of movement. I just like to make it very tiny, tiny cubes as much as possible. She also recommends that you can use a grater to grate your butter, and that'll make it come out nice and stringy, but it'll fold in very nicely.
You need to make sure it's super cold when you do it that way.
Oh, really?
It'll just melt and smear.
Oh, you could actually get your hands. Oh, no. And I've hit my hands in the grater. That's not fun. So we're actually going to cut about a tablespoon off of our butter first. I'm just going to quickly do an eyeball test.
We're going to set that aside to eat on our scones.
Yep, about there. Woohoo! And because we had the butter out for a little bit, it's a little softer. When you're cutting soft butter, don't be surprised if it kind of smooshes a little bit. That's okay. If your butter is still hard when you go to cut it and you're using force, you can slip and cut yourself. I've seen that done. So you want to have nice temperate butter. Would you say room temperature?
No, a little bit under.
A little under?
A lot of people soften their butter and they'll put it out for 3 or 4 hours. You really need about 30 minutes.
Okay.
It should just give. It shouldn't be so smushy that you could
okay.
squeeze it all the way through. And a lot of people do that and then their cookies don't turn out so well.
My cookies never turn out well.
It's a little bit cooler butter.
My cakes turn out great.
Because you're creaming that butter.
Oh, that's true. All right, so I'm actually going to chop it up into really small pieces. And the way I'm doing it is a little different from Miss Nancy. So Miss Nancy, again, she recommends cutting it lengthwise, rotating it, turning it 90 degrees, and cutting it lengthwise again before chopping. I'm just going to go ahead and make little pads of butter and then chop from there.
So actually, you're going to cut about a tablespoon size, right?
Actually, a little bit
smaller?
less.
Oh,
a little bit less,
perfect.
yeah. So for me, when I cut my pads of butter, I tend to cut about a centimeter. Yeah, about a little over a centimeter. Yeah. So I cut it like that. And then what I do when I go to cut my butter into small cubes, I move the pad of butter away from the big stick of butter, and I just chop it into thirds, and then I chop it again so that it's kind of all together. So it's a little different. Maybe not the best professional way, but, and then of course, Miss Nancy, she recommends, and I'm doing it now, is cutting it lengthwise.
Watch your thumb.
Yep. You never cut towards your fingers, and yet I do. All the time.
Keep the stick together and just flip it on its side.
Flip it on its side.
And then do the same cut again. Oh my gosh, it got soft.
It got a little soft. That's okay.
Do it lengthwise.
All right, this way.
There we go.
Yep. And that's okay. You know what? Someone's going to leave their butter out a little bit longer. So this is good teaching tool.
It wasn't that long. It was maybe not even an hour.
No. All right. And I'm just going to, my knife is stuck. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to tilt this a little bit towards the screen. So what you're looking for is this right here. My knife is pointed towards a cube of butter. You're looking for something that's about, I'd say, a centimeter to 2 centimeters wide, to a centimeter to 2 centimeters tall or thick. The idea is to make it so that it's soft and malleable, but not so soft that that you can squish it. So I'm gonna finish chopping this up, and we'll move on to the next ingredient. That's a little bigger.
Ashley is using her fingers, which is fine. This is something we're gonna bake. So hands are great tools, and we're actually gonna show you 2 different ways to incorporate the butter. Keep tapping.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'm excited.
To incorporate that butter into our dry ingredients. For those of you that want to use your hands or are able to use your hands, or if you need the assistance of a stand mixer.
I need the stand mixer.
We're gonna go get our stand mixer. Well, you finish.
I do not have the dexterity or the upper body strength. So I have cut our butter up. It's not pretty, but the idea behind it is that you want small, malleable pieces. So we're going to stick that knife right there. And I'm going to take a nice rag here and wipe my hands because butter fingers.
She was a little sticky.
Yeah.
All right. I have a KitchenAid mixer. It is one that uses the lift mechanism, so it has a lever that raises and lowers the bowl. I also make sure it's turned off before I plug it in. Otherwise, it'll spin and make a mess.
Oh, no.
Actually, which way are you gonna do?
I'm gonna talk about doing it the hand way, but we're gonna do it through the stand mixer.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay.
So we also have a mixer bowl that comes with the mixer. It has a handle. It has 2 pin holes that the mixer stand will actually sit on, and a kind of nub on the back that clicks into our machine to keep our bowl steady.
Okay. And if you're using a mixer at home that doesn't have these additional features, like for instance, my KitchenAid, a couple of quick tips. First and foremost, definitely keep the thing turned off while you plug it in. I have done that and things have gotten everywhere. Second, you want to tilt your head up, the head of the mixer, not your actual head. But you want to tilt the motor head up so that you have room to move the bowl in. And you want to twist it so it snaps in place. The other thing you want to do is there's a pin that goes across that holds the motor head to the base on a mixer, a typical stand mixer. No. It's typically on the stand. Yeah, you want to make sure that that hasn't moved, especially with older mixers as they are being used. That pin will sometimes work its way out, so you got to be careful. Some mixers are the professional series, which is awesome if you can get your hands on one. If you have a home mixer, that's great too. I do not recommend using a handheld mixer for this. If you are not going to use a stand mixer, I would recommend doing it with your hands. I did experiment with a hand mixer and I found that I could not incorporate the ingredients as well to the other two methods. So the first thing I'm going to do is incorporate my butter. So I'm going to put the flour in the bowl for the mixer. If you are doing this by hand, you can use a spatula and put it in and turn and continue to incorporate the butter. Again, you want a nice stiff spatula. This is a one that has a rubber tip. It's flexible, but it's still good. I use silicone at home, and my partner actually likes to use wooden spatulas, which I do not recommend. Nope, that's what I'm worried about. So I'm going to go ahead and put my flour in the mixing bowl here. I'm just going to tilt that in.
All of our dry ingredients.
Yep.
That flour. Yep.
Everything.
And I'll get that out of the way.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to slide my butter into the mixture here.
And that was our 7 tablespoons. We kept that 1 tablespoon for ourselves.
Yes.
For our treat.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Just lay that on there. So
thank you. So up next, so you want to, as you are making your scones, whether you're using a stand mixer or using your hands, you want to put things, you want to incorporate it so that it's just doughy.
It's a little bit crumbly still.
Yeah.
We call that kind of a shaggy dough is one of the words we use.
Shaggy dough.
Shaggy dough, so it'll have pieces everywhere.
Does it want a Scooby snack?
Maybe.
Next, we're going to actually add our sugar before we get mixing. So so that's actually our next step. I'm just double checking my steps here because it's a recipe and you can't undo it if you mess it up. So we're going to add our sugar in. Again, our sugar is in a plastic container. You can measure from your bag. It is a 1/2 cup of sugar. Again, we're using a dry measuring cup. They tend to be round and solid. So we are going to dip in and grab our sugar. I'm going to tilt this so I get a nice good thing, and I'm going to level it. Now, there is a difference between English scones and American scones, I found.
There is, including how you pronounce it. So English is going to say scone. Irish, English, you're going to have scones.
Scones.
We Americans say scones.
Yeah. Well, and part of what sets it different is the butter and the sugar contents. And so we're going to add our sugar right on in.
And actually, I found these a little sweeter than some of the American scones.
That's true. That is very true. I'm going to hand that back to you. All right. So this is where we get to mixing. So we can either mix with our hands. You want to have clean hands for this. If you've been messing with your ingredients and kind of moving around and touching things, you're going to want to wash your hands again and dry them very well and incorporate it with your hands. To do that, you're going to take your hands, dip it in the bowl, and literally you can start with a squishing motion, almost like you're clawing at it, but then you can fold it over. You want to start folding it and pulling it and kind of tucking it in at night. Kind of thing. If you're using a mixer, again, you want your paddle mix or your paddle attachment. If you're using a KitchenAid mixer, there is a bevel that sticks out from the bottom of the stand. That's where you attach your mixer. Yeah, I will. Yeah. Oh, it won't fit? Oh, Oh, okay. Again, I'm used to tilting mine
Yeah,
up.
so the tilt head is a little different. You can
Yep.
put the bowl on and then put your attachment on.
Yep.
When you're using one of the stand mixers with the arms,
You gotta.
you also have to now take both your hands and with all your might snap that down.
Oh
into the
my
mat.
goodness. Okay.
So, yep, both hands on there, and then
yep.
both hands back here. And
Oh
boom.
wow. Okay. Got it.
If not,
Yep.
I can help. There we
Ha!
go. Make sure that clicks, otherwise you and someone else will be cleaning up your kitchen. It happens sometimes. So now
I can put them. Yep. So again, going from a home kitchen to a professional kitchen, slightly different tools, but the importance of the tools is still there.
Still the same. Function the same way.
Yep. And it doesn't lift, right?
So,
no. Okay.
In the bowl. Yep.
In the bowl.
Line up the pin.
Da-da-da.
Lift up and twist. Now,
Okay.
Ashley's going to also check and make sure that that's
stable
on there so that when we turn it on, again, she's not covered. Now, the real big kicker here, the difference is she has to raise the bowl up before she turns it on. So that's the lever on the side. Bring it
up
toward the back.
Towards the back.
Until
Okay.
it clicks.
I felt it click.
Did you be sure it clicked?
Yeah. Oh
Positive?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I'm getting used to things that, like toys that click. Yeah. So again, if you've incorporated things with your hands, you're looking for that feel of almost like gritty sand, like thick sand, or kinetic sand. If you are incorporating via a stand mixer, you want to stop it you want to stop it after a minute or two and actually feel for that texture that you're looking for. You're just wanting to incorporate, you don't want to overmix. Most stand mixers will have an adjustment for speed. Always start slow, especially if you have to incorporate more ingredients as it's moving. I have found that my kitchen gets covered in ingredients if I have it on too high. So I'm going to start off to stir. Oh, ta-da! You could probably hear it. Again, do not use a hand mixer. It doesn't incorporate as well. So I'm just going to bump it up to 2. There we go.
So this is a great way if you're injured, if you don't have use of both of your hands. Stand mixers are a great way to go. They also don't move across your countertop, so they're really good and stable. They're really heavy. So we do use them in here quite a lot, and our folks really enjoy using them.
You know, I broke my stand mixer once.
Oh gosh, they do break.
Yeah, I dropped
it.
it.
Ours once in a while. Oh, you broke it.
I dropped it. It broke the tile too.
I was going to say your foot.
No, it broke the tile.
So she's going to mix it. We're about 30 seconds in. It's starting to get a little bit crumbly.
Mm-hmm. Again, you want that feel of coarse sand.
But Ashley, what's going to go in next?
Next is it's your eggs.
Yep.
It took me a second. Memory. Eggs. So as your paddle mixer is mixing, you want to take 2 of those 3 eggs that we had, and you're going to crack them open. When you do your wet ingredients, I'm just going to check it. Yeah. Okay. We've gone ahead and turned the mixer off. Hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Also, our ingredients are really incorporated. When you are cracking your egg, first and foremost, don't leave any shells in there because that's just bad form. But you want to make your liquids separate from your dries. And so we're going to actually be using a separate bowl. This is a small bowl. I'm going to crack my egg. I tried it on the side of the bowl, didn't work. Ta-da!
So we found the countertop, the edge of the countertop,
yeah,
way better our bowls kind of have a rounded lip on them, so it makes it a little harder.
Again, one of the fun things about eggs is you get shells everywhere.
Shells everywhere, especially in the spring when the chickens have a little bit thinner shells.
You know, my mom made scones with duck eggs.
Ooh, yum.
Yeah, she said it was really rich.
Oh yeah, really, really rich. Duck eggs are lovely.
Okay. Da-da-da-da. And of course, I got a piece of shell in there. Not a problem. We're going to take a fork and we're going to beat our eggs. I like to personally punch the yolk first before I beat it. I don't know why. It was just a trick that I picked up. I just always have done that. I'm going to tilt the bowl a little bit to the screen so that you can see. But I'm going to take my fork, and again, using the similar method to what I used when I was whisking, I'm going to just kind of mix up the eggs. And it's kind of like you're making scrambled eggs. Just you want to get it all incorporated and mixed about. 30-second mix, you're fine, 30 seconds.
So you can also use liquid eggs and the measurements on the side of the container. If you happen to use those, you can use all egg white, which they won't switch. If you don't have that. And there's lots of egg substitute tricks out there right now. Some fava bean liquid, some garbanzo bean liquid, some other egg substitutes. But eggs are a great source of protein, even if they're a little bit higher priced.
That's true.
Right now, it's still an economical protein.
It is. It is. Now we're going to add our buttermilk to our eggs and mix one more time. So again, we're measuring out 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. If you do not have buttermilk, you can make your own. There are plenty of recipes online. Some work better than others. I have seen it made with vinegar.
Vinegar works great. Lemon juice.
Yep, I've seen all of it. I personally make the trip to the store for the buttermilk. Yeah, not because I just think it has a different taste.
And you know what's nice? You have leftover buttermilk for buttermilk pancakes, buttermilk biscuits, buttermilk waffles, more scones, and you can freeze it if you don't use it all.
No way.
We do that in here. We freeze it in ice cube trays, and then we just plunk it out as we need it. It freezes just fine.
That is so cool. I did not know that.
There you go. So you don't want to waste it.
No, not at $4 for a pint.
Or more.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to add our buttermilk to our egg mixture.
And that's 2 eggs and 3/4 cup of buttermilk.
Yep. And what I'm doing is stirring my eggs with a fork as I'm pouring it in. And you want to pour it slowly. I have done this a couple of ways. I have poured my milk in real fast and then stirred it to incorporate it. And I found that it just didn't fluff. It didn't get the right texture. I've also gone the other way and poured the eggs into the buttermilk, and that did not work. So what you're looking for with mixing this is, again, 30 seconds and you're fine. But you're looking for a frothy, a little bit of a frothy, light pale yellow color. And if you are using your fingers to test, you want to be able to almost feel nothing between your fingers, like a silky piece of fabric. All right, so I'm going to wipe my hands, and I'm going to add my butter mixture to my dry ingredients. Again, you're doing them separately, and adding them in together will kickstart the recipe.
So Ashley, what's in the small bowl again?
2 eggs.
2 eggs.
3/4 cup of buttermilk. Yep.
You're going to add that to your butter flour mixture.
Yep.
Perfect.
I'm going to put my things to the side. So to incorporate, if you're doing this by hand, I found that using your hand to turn the dough as you're incorporating it makes a lot of sense. You're pouring it in very slowly. If you are using a stand mixer, have your mixer on stir or one, depending on which model you have, and you're going to slowly pour in your butter mixture or your egg mixture. So I'm going to turn my stand mixer back on stir, and I'm going to slowly pour my my eggs and buttermilk in.
So Ashley, we're being really gentle with this dough. We're not using a dough hook. We're not going to knead it like we would a loaf of white bread or make some other types of quick breads. This is very, very gentle.
Yes. As you are incorporating your eggs and your buttermilk, it's going to change the texture of the dough in the bowl. It's going to become more like kinetic sand, but you're definitely gonna feel the difference. If you are looking at it visually, you're going to notice that it almost looks like pastry dough, very flaky, kind of falling apart. I'm going to stop it there. You don't want to overmix that incorporation because you're going to still knead the dough as well, a little bit by hand. What you're looking for, and I'm just going to take a pinch, is in my hand, you have almost like a wet, malleable butter in my hand. So I'm going to put that back in the bowl and wipe my hands. Now, once all that's done, we're going to lightly, you can either flour your countertop. That's what I do at home. I have a marble countertop, so I will flour my countertop. Do we want to use the countertop? Or
You
okay,
can use countertop.
awesome. I don't want to mess the countertop up.
Oh.
It's so pretty.
We have a beautiful white slab of countertop in the kitchen that is actually quite resilient.
Oh, okay. So she has handed me about half a cup of flour, a little less, and I'm just going to lightly put some on, about half on my counter, and spread it out just a little bit. So I've got a nice pile. I take both my hands and I put them down and I make almost like a circle with it.
So Ashley has flour coated her hands, so I'm going to undo the mixer for her. I'm going to put the lever down. I'm going to lift the paddle attachment. I'm going to get off all the dough that's attached to it. This looks great. Look at that beautiful golden color.
Oh, yeah. It's already smelling great. When you, I don't know about anybody else, but I can smell really well ever since I had a kid. And like my sense of smell is like perfect now.
So if you look at Ashley's bowl, she has wet dough and dry bowl dough in the bottom. So she's also going to make sure those dry ingredients also incorporate in. You put the raisins in?
I am. I'm going to do it by hand. Yep.
Right, so get the mixer out of the way
so
you can see.
Awesome. So you just want to reach in and tilt your bowl and flip it over and kind of pull out your ingredients here. You're going to find that the bottom, you've kind of got more of a coarse sand but from your dough. So if you look closely, or if you're feeling, you're going to feel little dry bits, and then you're going to feel some wet pieces here. Now's the time, if you're adding anything to your scones, we're adding raisins. Now's the time to add it in to incorporate it. I have seen people use dried strawberries. I've seen people use cherries, all sorts of things. Fruit is always good in a scone.
Delicious.
Now, we are using golden raisins, and our golden raisins have been soaked for about 30 minutes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, the idea behind soaking them is to give you a better scone.
So the moisture from the dough won't go into the raisin. Your dough is going to stay nice and moist. It'll also plump up any of those raisins that might be a little over dry.
Okay.
So you don't get that chewy little bite. And it also helps them not burn if they're at the top of the scone.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You've been made oatmeal cookies and some of them.
Yeah.
So this will help with that.
Okay. Maybe I need to do that with my cookies. Fun fact, you do want to drain your bowl. I did not do that. I did get a look from Miss Nancy, but my stepson actually came up and he's like, "Ooh, raisins," and dipped his hand in the bowl, not realizing that there was a little bit of water left. And he goes, "Oh no!" Eating wet raisins is not good.
I can imagine.
Yeah, no. So I just grab a handful at a time. You can use a measuring cup if you want. I use a handful at a time. My hands kind of cup to about a half a cup. So yeah.
About half a cup.
Yep, about a half a cup. And I'm just going to kind of sprinkle them on top of my dough. So it's kind of like I'm making a little mountain of raisins. And I incorporate a little bit at a time. So when you are doing your final kneading of the dough, you don't want to do what I do and leave your engagement ring on.
I did take mine off.
I left mine on. I forgot. Well, it has to get cleaned anyway. But you're going to take both hands and gently push on the dough. You don't want to beat the dough yet.
No, we don't want to knead it anymore.
No.
Just gently incorporate all the ingredients.
Yep, just going to fold. So I kind of take both hands and I go under the dough and I just turn it on itself. Just like that, like I'm making a calzone of some kind. And then now I've got a new top to put raisins on. So I'm going to take a little handful here and put my raisins on, and I'm spreading them out. And I'm just going to push my dough back to center and then turn and fold my dough over again and push down. And then you just do that a couple of times until it's ready. I definitely pulled out more raisins than we needed. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You don't know until you make it.
That's true. And I like things that are filled with
I've been
raisins.
anxious to try Ashley's scones that she has baked. We've both baked virtually and compared notes.
Yes. Yeah.
We've had virtual scone tastings. So
We have.
This is fun actually doing it together.
Yeah. I just grabbed another small handful. And I'm just going to fold over. And now what I'm going to do is just, I'm not going to over knead. I'm just going to keep folding the dough onto itself so everything is incorporated and I don't have any extra dough on the counter.
So a lot of times when we do a dough like this and it has the dry, when we let it rest in the refrigerator, that's when those little dry pieces will actually absorb into the dough.
Sweet.
If you're making pie crust, 30 minutes, same thing in the fridge, we'll give a chance for that moisture in that fat to actually incorporate into the flour and make a really nice flaky pastry crust, because you don't want to overwork any type. And this is basically a pastry.
Oh, do you know how hard it is to find lard for your?
It depends where you live.
Yeah, really?
It's easy. I live in a different state, so my state's more agricultural. So
okay.
I live in Pennsylvania, so lard's very common to find in bricks or in containers at the butcher or at the market.
I cannot find it anywhere, and I like pie. I make pie crust with lard. I use my great grandmother was born in 1911.
Oh my goodness.
And she would tell me stories about lard, and she would use lard as her butter. And I'm just making sure there's nothing else in the bowl. And I am done with my raisins.
It's super nice to have a helper in the kitchen.
It is. Unless they are 12-year-olds who.
Well, they're not. Well, that's not too bad.
It's not so bad until they're like, can we add like, vanilla and stuff? So we're gonna now. So what you want to do is you want to press your dough into about 1 inch thickness before putting it on a tray to put it in the fridge. I personally don't use my hands for this. Again, I don't have the dexterity or the upper body strength to really do it. Miss Nancy did it by hand, and she said it worked out great. I'm going to use a rolling pin. And again, sorry about the dishes. I know what it's like to clean. Right. I've cleaned rolling pins. I know what a pain that is. So I'm just taking my rolling pin and I'm putting it in the dead center of my dough. And I'm just going to roll away from myself and towards myself. Away until I hit my wrists, and then back until I hit my fingertips. And then I'm going to move the rolling pin just a little bit more back to the center and do it again. And then back to the center, go to my wrists, pull back and until I hit my fingertips. As you start using a rolling pin, you're going to notice that you're going to have to pull back twice as long and push twice as forward. If you are using your hands, I'll quickly show that. You don't want to just use the tips of your fingers. You want to press with your whole hand. It's because the flat part of your hand will give a much more consistent leveling of the dough. So we're gonna just finish it off with my hands as Miss Nancy taught us.
So one of the important things is we want all of our scones to be the same size and the same thickness. And that's for a couple reasons. First and foremost, you don't want your kids fighting over the bigger one, or you and your kids fighting over it. And second, we want them to all cook at the same time in temperature. So we don't have to pull out 3 of them and cook 2 for 2 more minutes.
Okay, so I've got them.
That looks really awesome.
Yeah, I've got them. And the idea behind incorporating your raisins slowly as you do it is that they kind of space themselves out. There's nothing worse than having a scone and it's no raisins or no fruit. So to get it onto the tray, I have found a couple of tricks. Again, upper body strength, dexterity issues. You can use a spatula, but very carefully. The other thing too is your dough might stick a little bit to the counter despite the flour. So you just want to take your fingers and walk them under your dough, almost like you are lifting a very sticky animal.
It almost looks like a stingray.
Yeah, kind of. And take both your hands. You're going to hold it up and move it to your parchment-lined tray.
So you could also pat this out if you're not using a rolling pin right on your tray.
Oh, you can.
Or
yeah.
You can even roll it on your parchment instead of your counter. If you want to do that. So I think we chill now.
We chill now.
So the reason we chill is we want that butter that was so soft and smeary, we want that to harden back up.
Right.
So we want it to be a little bit brittle. So we're going to pop that in, and I'll get you a scraper.
Okay. So when you are resting your dough, you want to let it rest for approximately, they say there's a couple of ways to do this. You can do 1 or 2 rests. In our recipe, we are doing one rest, and it is for 30 to 40 minutes. And that way it's nice and relaxed, and you will notice the difference to the touch. You will notice the difference. I guess our next step is cleanup. So we're going to clean up really quickly, and we are going to talk about our ovens next.
So why don't you go ahead and talk about future things?
Okay.
And I'll do a little bit of cleaning.
Okay.
You're my guest today. So
Oh, we have to get Miss Nancy down to the library for the blind and show her some awesome stuff there.
Anxious to come down. We learned about it in our library training.
Yeah.
I am using a plastic bench scraper, we call it. One side is curved, one side is straight. It's about 3 inches by 5 inches, and it just scrapes across the counter without hurting your countertop because it is nylon. So, and then we like to clean up anything dry. So we can just scrape off the dry stuff.
So in other words, not the way my kids do it.
Not with a wet cloth. Okay, so we're just gonna wipe this down a little bit.
Well,
so you're ready to go for your next part. So go ahead.
Yeah. So as part of the virtual hike, we've got some upcoming programs I would love everyone to be excited for. The first and foremost, we have we have some digital escape. We have a digital escape room that is Pooh's Honey Hunt. You're going to help Pooh find his honey. We have scheduled it with the Pooh Museum in Hartford. We're going to have an audible tour of Ashdown Forest, which is the inspiration for the 100-Acre Woods. We're going to also get an exclusive audio tour of their museum. On April 19th, we have an audio-described viewing of Christopher Robin. So if you've never attended a library's movie night, this is the one to go. I think it starts at 11. So you'll have to sign up for that and enjoy that with us. Audio-described movies allows everyone to participate. So captions will be on and audio description as well. And then finally, Miss Nancy made this happen, y'all. But on the 24th, we are going to have a tea tasting. Now, what's really cool is Miss Nancy has a friend from a company called Tea and Whimsy. Tea and Whimsy. You might want to note that down. Her name is Anne, and she has been the sweetest person to work with. I'm a tea person, but only in the winter, and she is a tea person year round. So we are going to have a tea tasting. The library will send the first 50 people who register a tea packet that will allow you to have all 3 teas that we're tasting available. You're going to want to have a kettle or something with hot water so that you can steep your teas. And Anne is going to walk us through a little bit of the history and a little bit of the flavor profiles for that. And again, this is in partnership with Tea and Whimsy and Carroll County Public Library, Enoch Pratt Free Library, the Pooh Corner in Hartfield, England, and of course the Friends of the Maryland State Library for the Blind and Print Disabled. And I'm going to also encourage everyone to come and visit Exploration Commons. I have not been here before. This is my first time, but my colleagues have had a chance to come, and every single one of them have said it's been an amazing experience. They have a makerspace haven where they have 3D printers, I think a laser printer, a large scale printing ability, and all sorts of things available to you as a patron of Carroll County Public Library.
Right, so our dough timer just went off.
Oh, sweet.
Yep, I stuck it in the freezer, so that'll
speed it up.
A little bit. And actually, I think we're going to put 5 big scones
Yep.
on here and get those in the oven, and we'll bake the rest off while we're cleaning.
Yep.
We'll get 5 in to show everybody.
Okay, and really quickly about the oven, you told me a neat tidbit.
I did. So our ovens here are convection. You may have a convection oven at home as well. So the recipe says 400 degrees. One of 2 things. Your oven may automatically reduce itself to 375 when you do convect bake, or you can take 25 degrees off. So if it says 400, you want to bump that down to 375 if you have a convection oven. Okay.
And convection ovens, I found out, are really common. So my fiance better get on
Your
and get
next,
me.
your next purchase
Yeah.
is definitely
Yeah.
confections.
So we had a biscuit cutter here. It's about what, 2.5 inches?
2.5 inches.
Yep, 2.5 inches. Again, you want to have something that's going to give you symmetrical, round scones. Another big difference between English scones and American scones is the size and shape. English scones tend to be round. American scones tend to be rectangular or triangular. So you want to coat your cutter, whatever you're using. Again, I used my daughter's sippy cup. You want to coat it with flour. The idea behind that is to keep it from sticking to your dough. You also, when you're pressing it in, you want to give it a little twist as you're pressing. That way it releases the dough from the other side. Finally, you want to make sure that you are putting them as close to each other as possible without going over. If you go over, you'll get little crescent moon cutouts. But the idea is to get as much of your dough as possible so you don't have to refold the dough together. The less you have to work with the dough, the better the outcome is. So I've got some flour here. Should I just put it on the counter, you think? Okay. I don't want to mess up the pretty clean counter. And I'm gonna spread it out. Got it on my hands again. I'm gonna take my biscuit cutter. She has a dual-sided biscuit cutter, which is really cool. One side has a tapered, beveled edge that kind of gives almost like what would you call that? A crinkle. I like that. I couldn't figure out and the other side is just a straight cut. I'm going to go with a straight cut.
Definitely straight cut for biscuit.
Yeah, no crinkle?
No crinkle.
No crinkle.
So
Okay, I'm taking my cutter and I'm putting it in the flour and I'm making a little circle so that it gets nice and round. And I'm not going to start in the middle. Never start in the middle.
No, let's start at the edge.
Everybody starts in the middle.
Yeah, that's where the good stuff is.
Right? I'm going to go to the edge. I'm using the edge closest to me. And I'm going to take my finger and feel for the edge. I'm going to press down just a little bit to make sure it's there. I'm going to use my other hand to put the biscuit cutter on the dough. And I'm just going to check, make sure it's good. Yep, I feel it. It's right there. And I'm going to push and twist just a little bit to kind of separate it to make sure it's out. And when I lift, the dough should come up just a little bit. If it's coming up and it's sticking to the inside of your cutter, that means you didn't get enough flour on it. You can push your hand through and poke it out, but next time you want more flour. There's two ways to grab your scones. You can use your fingers, or you can use a spatula. Miss Nancy has given me a spatula with a nice handle and a metal actual flat top part. There are adaptive spatulas out there that have the ability to hold steady through a gyro piece. So if you are someone who needs adaptive technology, that is helpful. You can just take your spatula, go again to the edge of your cut. You can feel that with your finger. And you're going to place the spatula underneath and lift. And you can use both hands, just kind of guide. And you're going to lift your scone and put it on the tray. Again, we're only doing 5.
So while Ashley is cutting out the 5 scones, we're going to bake the rest later. I promise you we're not going to waste it. We've got our oven preheating, so we're getting that ready. So 400 degrees. So my oven will automatically adjust itself a little bit for the convection. And then the recipe, in convection, you want to take 2 or 3 minutes off the time because it's easier to add more time if they're not quite to temperature when they're baked. Then take it away basically. So we're just going to do 5 because we want to spread them out. And Ashley and I were measuring, and if you go from the tip of your index finger to your second knuckle, that is about 2 inches-ish apart. Maybe these are almost 3. By the time we get them on there,
Yeah.
about 2.5 inches. We want air circulation around our spoons. We don't want to crowd them.
So I made that mistake the first time I made it, is I put too many on a tray at once. So as you can see, we put 5 on here. Now, this is a standard baking tray. I would say it's about 13 to 15 inches long and about 8 inches, 9 inches long. I have one that fits the entire oven. And so I tend to think I can put more on there than I should. When I was doing this, my scones were a little bit smaller. They were about an inch and a half wide around. And I put about 20 on there.
Oh,
not
yum.
a good idea.
Yeah, it's a little hard to get them to bake evenly. You got to stop and turn the cooking sheet around while you're cooking.
So I highly recommend spacing them out the way she said, with about 2.5 inches in between each. Think crescents. You want to?
You want a little room.
All right. So the last step before we pop these bad boys in the oven is going to be our egg wash. You can skip this step, but I don't recommend it. An egg wash will give you a nice brown color on top. It does something for the flavor. It really does. I think it does a good job. I have baked them without it, and you are missing something. So I'm going to crack my egg into a clean, small bowl. You don't want to use the same bowl that you were using for your egg wash, or your eggs and your buttermilk, rather.
No.
You want a clean bowl. You don't want any buttermilk on top. It will not help with the baking process. We're going to take the fork, and again, I punch my yolk. You don't have to, and you're just going to whisk it up for about 30 seconds. Okay, I'm going to hand that to you. Now we are going through with a pastry brush. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can use your fingers. I have seen people put their hand in a plastic bag and do it that way so they don't get egg on them. Either way is good. I'm going to turn the tray so that it is parallel to my waist, and I'm going to dip my pastry brush into the egg wash, and I'm just going to lift and shake it off. All right, and then I'm going to brush my scone. So I'm going to, you can either feel for your scone, or you can find your scone, and you're going to just very lightly brush the top. You don't need to cover the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't want scrambled eggs down the side and on the bottom of our scone. This is just to make the top pretty.
Yep. I have seen it where people put too much, and it kind of bakes weird.
Yeah, it gets hard.
Yeah, and it tastes funny.
So you can use egg. You can use milk if you don't have anything else. You can sprinkle them with sugar, demerara sugar, so get a nice crispy top on it. These tend to be a sweeter scone that Ashley's making today, so they are good with a little extra sugar. Go all in. But these are going to be really beautiful. Just like you can see, 3 or 4 swipes, just a little bit of egg. And you're all going to have egg left over, so scramble it off and enjoy it, or feed it to your puppies. Save it for another recipe.
I actually save it for another. I put it in a little container and put it in the freezer.
Use it up in a day or two.
Yep. Freezer, actually.
Oh, freezer. We love the freezer.
Yeah, we love the freezer. So a couple of quick things before you pop it into the oven. One, you want to make sure your oven is actually up to temperature. If you have one, you want to use a oven thermometer to make sure that your oven is up to temperature. You don't want to put your scones in a cold oven and let it rise to temperature. And then when you go to pull your scones out, you're not just doing it by smell and texture alone. First off, they'll be really hot. Again, you want to use that thermometer, and we're gonna show you how to do that here in a second. So, you ready?
I am.
Okay, I'm gonna take these over to Miss Nancy.
All right. And then you want to put the timer?
All right, 10 minutes. Okay. So we have a small digital timer. There are a wide range of timers out there. I prefer digital timers that are nice and big. You can get them up to paper, like 8.5 by 11 size. Again, the bigger that you get, the more expensive, but I like to be able to see my timer from anywhere. We're going to set for 10 minutes. Oh. Okay, and set it off to the side. All right, and what you do while your stuff is baking is you go and clean up. All right. Oh, thank you. So as our scones are baking, we're going to go ahead and just chit chat for a sec. I'm just going to check my notes, make sure I hit every ingredient, because you can't undo what you don't do, right? Okay. Okay, cool. So we're gonna let them start baking and go from there.
And you have some groups that you were working with that supported us today.
Yes.
On our venture.
Yes.
There were some cool people on there. Who were they?
Oh, good idea. Let me go back to my notes because I have lots. So today, of course, is sponsored by Carroll County Public Library. We have the Friends of the Maryland State Library for the Blind and Print Disabled. We have Pooh Corner in Hartfield, England, Tea and Whimsy, and Enoch Pratt Free Library. And we will make sure also when we go to post the actual recipe that we give credit to the author who developed this.
Yeah. Super fun to read the little story.
Yeah, it was. Have you noticed that a lot of the recipes have like really long blogs now?
Really long blogs. Yeah, some of them are a little too long. Oh, our timer just beeped. That was 10 minutes. So I'm going to take a temperature.
Yep. So again, we're using a probe, a digital thermometer probe, and we're going to take a temperature. We are looking for 200. Okay. We want it to read about 200. You want to get about 190 to 200.
And we are just there.
Awesome. Yes, it will be very hot. Get a towel.
Or a hot pad, hot mitt, and make sure you set it on a surface that can maintain heat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just putting a hot pad down. I have my tray in my hand using a hot pad. Beautiful scones.
Let's put it over here.
I'm going to put them over here in front of Ashley.
Awesome.
So she can show them off how beautiful they
Oh,
are.
sweet. So what Miss Nancy did is while they were still in the oven, she tested them for temperature.
I did.
Why don't you take them out to test them?
Well, you want to keep your oven door closed as much as you can. So quick temperature, we have that digital thermometer you showed them. Actually, it's 1 second read.
Oh, wow.
So very quickly, I inserted it. Whoop, it said 201. I knew our scones were done. I could pull them right out and shut the door and put a second batch in if I need to.
Sweet, sweet. So I'm going to go over our scones and what they look like. First off, they're going to be very hot. You want to give them a second to kind of cool down. Again, you're using parchment paper on the bottom on your tray. You might, if you're like me, you might have it where it kind of caught a little bit and it burnt. That's okay. Just keep your hands towards the center of the tray as much as possible because the edges will be hot. Your scone should be about 1.5 inches thick. That's what you're looking for, a nice high-rise scone. You can have them smaller. They can be shorter, but the shorter they are, the denser they are. You want that nice, fluffy scone feeling. You're also looking for a very nice, smooth texture on top. It'll still be bumpy, but it'll be smooth. If you are looking at the scone, it's going to have a nice golden brown. Thank you. The raisins that are at the top should have turned a blackish color, just so you know. Golden raisins will turn black in the oven if they are exposed. And when you cut it open, it's going to be flaky on the inside. That's the key. If you cut it open and it's more like a biscuit, that means your dough is too dense. All right.
Ready to taste?
Ready to
taste. I
taste.
should have made us a pot of tea, but it is 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. So I'm going
to,
yep, that one's still warm. I'm going to put it there. Awesome.
So actually, let's move that out of the way.
Yeah. You want to grab that?
I will grab that. So make sure you move your pan. You have
Yep.
hot mitt, something
Yeah.
set underneath it, cooling racks are really well. So let's see. What do we have?
Okay. So we have 2 scones in front of us. Miss Nancy has a scone on a plate with a knife. I have a scone with a plate on a knife. And Miss Nancy was sly, y'all. She went out and picked up some clotted cream.
The real stuff.
The real stuff. Now, you can make this at home, but it takes like 12 hours.
It does. Overnight works really well.
Yeah.
Or you can bake it a little bit with some cream cheese.
Yeah, you can, but it's not the same.
Not the same.
Not the same.
All right, let's see how we did.
All right, let's cut it open.
So I'm taking my scone in my hand, nice and warm,
Mm-hmm.
using my knife,
And press through.
cut it in half.
Oh. So again, you're looking for that crumble inside. If it doesn't crumble, your dough is too dense.
Definitely need a cup of tea.
Oh, definitely. Do you know what kind of tea would go good with this? Cream tea.
tea.
Oh,
Cream tea.
yes.
So I've read that in the Sussex household, they put on their clotted cream first, and then they're jammed. The queen perhaps didn't do it the same way, and other boils don't do it the same way. So we do have lemon curd, we do have jam, and we do have clotted cream. So I think I may do half on one side and
Half on the other. Yeah. Okay.
Right? Oh my goodness. So we've never had clotted cream. It is heavy, thick. It is yellowish. It's a little softer than cream cheese in a block. It's more yellow than cream cheese in a block. It's almost like you blended cream cheese and some of that good butter. That
Yeah.
you didn't put over here either.
And it definitely has a distinctive smell. It's very light.
It is very light.
You almost can't smell it, but if you concentrate, you can smell it, and it smells like fresh dairy.
So the other thing I read, I don't know if you saw this, is they don't pick up the whole scone and take a bite.
No, they don't.
They break off a piece. So go ahead and give yours.
All right.
We'll do a little toast.
So I'm going to do clotted cream, not clotted cream. I'm going to do the cream, and I'm going to do lemon curd.
Lemon curd.
That's my favorite. Lemon curd is my favorite. So I'm going to spread a little on my scone here. Wipe it off real good. I'm going to grab a little bit of lemon curd. Now, lemon curd is different than jam, lemon jam, and so it's a different. It's great, a great combination. Jam is made in a different way than curd is made. So
Yeah, curd.
yeah, it does.
Well, Ashley, it's been a pleasure having you here at Exploration Commons and working on this project with you. Cheers.
Cheers.
And I hope everybody sends us their pictures.
Yes.
And shares with us your experience with the 100-acre woods.
I know.
So fun.
Come on, it's Winnie the Pooh, y'all.
Thanks
All
for
right.
joining us.
Ready?
Actually, it's been a delight. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm,
Oh my God.
so good. And they're warm. Delicious.
No, you put what kind of jam in there?
I did strawberry and strawberry.
Oh, so good.
So thanks again and take care.
Bye.